Hi, Misha here, and this is another Mishaco channel preview. Exclusive content for this personal channel. Personally. Now, this is a Finnish Valmet M78 and 308 762 NATO. Often called the RPK, but it's not. It's just set up as a light machine gun variant. But a 24-inch barrel with the flash hider, tubular folding bipod, wood handguards, AK system. This one's on the milled receiver, clubfoot buttstock. A lot of people actually say it's RPK style. It's actually more of an RPD or a KVK 62 style. And here we have it with a giant 30-round 308 mag. This is an MCP. And this video is going to be more of a personal recounting of how I got into Valmets and really how it's been a kind of a dumb luck thing. I've just been really fortunate. This one came in through trade as well, so yeah, they are neat guns. Sometimes called the Cadillac of AKs. They were the first AK semi-autos to ever be imported into the USA. And this would have been the first RPK style, LMG style ever to come into the USA. Which is why it was used as a stand-in for that in a lot of famous 80s movies like, of course, Ghostbusters. Red Dawn. So yeah, just a personal account. Most of this video is going to be a black boxer because I'm tired and want to sit down, but I thought I'd at least give you some look at my new gun here. Let's flip it over real quick. Here she is with bipod stowed. It's very secure. Typical Finnish flash hider with bayonet lug. Has a folding front night sight. More of an AKM style rear sight versus what you typically see. Has a carry handle, but it actually is spring loaded, so when it rests it's on the side. You can see the markings here. Hopefully. Imported by Valmet Incorporated of New York. Got our side sling swivel. This is a Finnish leather sling. And here we have it with the big honkin' mag in it. So yeah, this gun is kind of neat for me because my first Valmet was an M78. And having this one today really brings back some very cool memories. So, for more on the actual history and whatnot, check out the main Mishaco channel. But if you want to hear me ramble on about personal things and feelings, stay tuned here and I'll kind of tell you how I got into owning Valmets over the years and things of that nature. And with that, let's get into it. One reason I decided to do this personal channel video is I realized, looking at my logbooks, it was 8 years ago, nearly to the exact day, that I picked up my original M78 and 308. Just like the one you saw. It wasn't in as good of a condition, but it did have 2 mags. And having this gun today really brings back good feelings, if you know what I mean. I mean, doing my job, I've had a lot of guns in my hands that I never thought I'd have. You know, rare guns, interesting guns. I'm not saying it ever becomes boring, But it does start to become, diminishing returns. I think that's just human nature, and I'm not complaining. But my M76 and my M78, both in 308, I picked them up on the same day. But really, the first time I can think of that, literally out of the blue, I stumbled into something I really didn't think I'd ever own. And so having this today, I remember that feeling that day. It was really, really great. It all started, my dad picked me up, and I forget the original impetus, but we drove out of town, about an hour and a half away. Actually, it's essentially where I live now when we moved. A little bit, it's one town over, but, 15 minutes away. We were coming up this way, over the mountains, to do something, and we stopped in a pawn shop, gun shop, that we had only maybe been once before and hadn't had a lot of luck. But, we were in the area, and back then we used to stop in to little shops because you never knew what you're going to find. Today, you can't really do that as much because most shops, if they get anything rare or interesting in, they immediately put it on Gunbroker. But back then, a lot of your guys, even in 2012, they weren't tech savvy. And Gunbroker and online payment wasn't then what it is today. Anywho, I think, if I remember correctly, that shop, I had bought a Russian SKS there once before, which was an okay deal. It's like $400 for a nice Russian SKS. It was still in the KBI box, which is neat. And at that time, they were worth about $500. So, a good deal, but nothing great. So with that, we figured I'd just pop in and see what they have. And lo and behold, they had these two Valmets on the wall. And you could tell they came from the same collection. And actually, funnily enough, they came from an individual who lived about 15 minutes from my hometown at the time. So he had driven an hour and a half to take them up there. Kind of funny how that happens. And of course, I, like everyone else, really wanted 7.62 by 39 and the tube stalker. That had always been the widest of whales. But, 308 was neat. It was more appealing to me then, and it still is today, over the 223. And I'm always a sucker for the RPK, the light machine gun look. So, yeah, why not, Why not? Ask them what they wanted for them, though. Because I figured they'd be pretty sky high. Because you don't see these around here. The only ones I'd seen in stores before in this area had been ones that were on display and weren't for sale. Sometimes owners of shops will do that. They'll put up a couple of personal guns just for eye candy, But they said $1,500 each, which was already a really good price back in 2012. At that time, the M78 308 was about $2,200 to $2,500 maybe online, and the M76 was a little more valuable. It was more of a $2,600 to $2,800 gun. Well, $3,000. It is still a lot of money, but it was definitely a lot of money back then. But I asked, well, what if I take both? And they said, okay, we'll do $2,800 for the pair. And we'll include an extra mag with each. And what was neat, all four mags were original Valmet. They weren't converted. They weren't even the converted AK-4 mags. They were all blued factory Valmet mags. Well, money changed hands, and I took them home. And that was neat. I just kind of set it in the living room with them. I remember my little brother came over that evening. We watched some stupid movie. And I just fondled them all evening, and it was just so neat to have these guns that I never thought I would own. They weren't in mint condition, but they weren't messed with, nothing broken, nothing missing. And the M76, even to this day, even though I've handled a number of Valmets, that M76 still seems to be the smoothest Valmet I've ever felt. Both of them are on milled receivers. Both had wood buttstocks. The M78 had a wood handguard. The M76 had a black plastic handguard. And owning those, I really dove in and started to learn about Valmets. It wasn't too long, because I was kind of on the Valmet path, that someone offered me an M76 in 223. And then I ended up with a side folder and an M71. Honestly, the M71 I bought because it was priced on Gunbroker really low and no one had bid. I forget the reason why, but the seller ended up taking $1,200 for it with 2 factory mags and an original bayonet. Now the bayonet, to be fair, was a little dinged up, little rough, but it wasn't broken or chipped. It had a good edge. It had a good scabbard. It was just used. So the mags and bayonet alone were several $100 value. And I really like that M71. I don't know why. It looks pretty similar to just the standard AKM. It's the least special looking of them all. And the truth is, if it had been in 7.62 by 39, I probably would have kept it. But the 223 mag thing always bugged me. And so I knew I probably wouldn't keep them long term. Now the M76, a friend really wanted it. I let him trade me out of it. He had a preban Argentinian paratrooper FAL, which I wanted. So we swapped there. I ended up selling the M78, I think just on Gunbroker. Ended up selling the M76 223 folder to a friend who really wanted it. Hung on to the M71 for a while, but eventually sold it for like $1,500 and kept the bayonet and one of the 2 mags. So it came out ahead. Basically, I traded off all that. It came out, I turned the 2,800 into a good bit more. I took that money for a good bit more. And then I got lucky. Because, like I said, this was August, September 2012. Unfortunately, and I remember I was sitting at my mother's house and the news came on. We were doing Christmas celebrations and the Sandy Hook shooting was happening. A horrible event on every single conceivable level. But that led to panicking, gun buying, prices going bananas, and ultimately it led to the SAFE Act in New York the next year. And guns that were previously legal up there, prebans, were suddenly not legal. And so a lot of neat guns had to be gotten out of New York in a hurry. And among these were Valmets. And first I found an M62 woodstock for a decent price. I didn't rip the guy off, but he needed it in a hurry, and I had the money from the first deals, so I did that. And then later I found an M62 tube stalker for, again, a good deal. Not needing both, of course, and preferring the tube stalker, the same friend who took the M76 happily took the woodstock M62 because they're still rare. So I didn't lose money on it, and got my M62 tube stalker that I still have to this day that you saw in the beginning of the video. Unfortunately, to get it, I did have to let go of the M76 in 308 and the M78 in 308. But between all the wheeling and dealing, yeah, it was a lot of footwork and time, but I'm probably in my M62 for under $2,000, maybe even close to $1,500, plus several hours of work. but that's how I'm able to justify it. Plus, at that time, it was right before the price went bananas on them. The 308s and the 223s were in the 2,000 to 3,000 range, depending on the model then, and had been for a while. But the 7.62 by 39s had been in the 35 to 5,000 range even then. And so after that, they actually jumped quite a bit to where they're at today in the 6 to 7 range, which is, anyway, good timing, good fortune, and I'm thankful, because without a lot of good luck, I wouldn't own the Finnish Valmet or a lot of the other guns I have. I didn't regret my decision. I actually ended up getting an M76 and 7.62 by 39 a little bit later, because I wanted it in a late version. I found it for a reasonably good deal, like $5,000. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah. But then we bought a house, and I sold it for a respectable profit, several hundred. Anyway, and used that as part of the down payment on the house, so no regrets there. But I was down to my one M62 Valmet. I do regret letting go of the M71, even the M76, and really the one I regretted the most was the M78. But c'est la vie. I'd always really wanted one in 7.62 by 39, of course, same story as usual. Didn't really want one in 223. Again, I have the Arsenal SA RPK 5, so I've got an RPK in 223 anyway. But then, just out of the blue, last week, I had one of the JDI, now Sin Imports, SG 553 pistols and 300 blackout up on Gunbroker. And a guy emails me saying, "Are you open to trades?" And I give my standard patented response. I'll say, "Sure, I'll listen to anything. I'll entertain. I can't promise I'll accept, but sure, lay it on me." And usually people want to trade not bad stuff, but stuff that's not really of interest and I can't do much with, like a fancy AR-15 or an ACOG scope, or just, a 700 bolt action. Not bad guns, but just not guns that have a lot of good resale value. And he said, Valmet, M78, 308. And I wrote, hey, is it milled or stamped? Because the early ones were stamped, the later ones were milled. I prefer milled. I said, wood handguard or plastic? Wood. Okay, so this is pretty much exactly what I would prefer. What's the condition? He said, it's a safe queen. Which, to be fair, a lot of Valmets are, but not all of them. And I have seen people drill and tap them for scope mounts and do other goofy stuff, so I'm like, okay, is there anything wrong with it? I was a little leery because it was almost a too good to be true deal. The Swiss gun's definitely worth money. I had it up on Gunbroker for like $3,200 retail price. And I said, have you ever shipped a gun before? And he said, yes. So great, he knows the ropes. And he proposed, and this is how I do it anyway, but he proposed, I'll ship you my gun. If you like it, then you ship this one. So at that point, I have nothing to lose. So I gave him my FFL and said, I'll ship, I'll get your gun. I'll try to ship this one out within 24 to 48 hours. Because I don't want to, he seemed so chill about it. And that's always when something's going to go well, and when no one's over-stressing it, over-worrying. Because he originally emailed me late on a Wednesday night. By the following Thursday, we had a deal worked out. By that Friday, he dropped it in the mail, and it arrived the following Monday. Easy peasy, couldn't be better, and I haven't found anything wrong with the gun. I've disassembled it. I don't see anything wrong. I've owned one before, so I know basically what to look for. The bipod's there, the carry handle's there. The butt plate isn't even cracked, which is not all that common for these. The only minor detraction, if I had to say there's a detraction, is that it has the MCP mag in it instead of one of the original factory mags. But the MPCs still sell for good money, and 30 rounds is kind of neat. And they're known for working fine. And he told me beforehand, so it wasn't a surprise. And he even shipped the gun in a Pelican case. So, cool, Pelican case. And then yesterday, I was just poking around Gunbroker, waiting on a video to be done editing so I could upload it. And I found some factory Valmet mags for a good price. So I now bought some 20 rounders for the 308. And I'm going to try to hang on to this one for a bit. I may have to find a couple of things to sell to justify it. But Jay and I will probably take it to the range. We were going to try to go to the rifle range this weekend. But between the heat and humidity and Jay having suffered a minor accident that's kind of left him walking with difficulty temporarily. He's fine. It's just he needs to heal up. You know, things happen in life. So it's not really a good time for him to go out to the rifle range. Plus, it really is freaking hot. It was about 95 today, and I think about 123% humidity. So we'll probably put off our range trip for a little while. Maybe just go to the pistol range and shoot light things, but that'll be my justification to myself, is just hang on to the M78 until I can shoot it, and hopefully by then I can find something, because, you know, in a perfect world, I'd own all the Valmets. You know, you've seen my AK collection. I tend to have at least one example of each major variant of a country, even having, what do I have? 3 Swiss guns. I've got a 5.50 PE90, 5.51 LB, and a 5.53 Commando. But even Swiss guns look inexpensive compared to what Valmets go for today. So that's why I've only had one Valmet for the past 6 years. To be fair, though, it was the Valmet I wanted. I mean, the gun. RK62 clone M62S with the tube stock, bicycle grip, and cheese grater handguard. I even have a pouch of 3 lanyard loop mags for it, an early sling swivel for it. Heck, I even have an early sight tool. So, yeah, I mean, and my gun is in good shape, but it's not in mint condition, which I like, because then I can take it to the range. You know, if someone gives you a gun that's as new in box, that's 99% condition, you feel kind of bad taking it to the range, because something always happens eventually. But if a gun's 90, 95%, a few scuffs and scratches, maybe a little light pitting, then you don't feel bad about, frankly, taking it out and enjoying it. And in my mind, what's the point of personally owning a gun, or anything for that matter, if you don't take it out and enjoy it? I mean, if you are a car person, why own classic cars if you don't drive them? You know, it's just, life's too short. And I've met gun collectors like that that'll have 20 of it. I never forget, I met a guy years ago that had 20 or 30 really high-end FALs. We're talking like G-series guns, very rare kit guns, Canadian C1s. And we were talking about shooting, and I was talking about my favorites to shoot and how they feel to shoot. And he was saying, "Oh, I wouldn't know." I said, "Oh, you haven't shot that gun?" The one we're talking about. He goes, "No, I've never shot an FAL." Say what? And I want to say, well, how do you know you even like the FAL if you never shot it? I would have never known how I like the AK as much as I do if I hadn't shot my SAR-1. It's just, it's his life, his guns, he can do with them as he wishes. It's not so much that I'm judging him, saying he's wrong, as much as I'm just like, I don't understand. Because for me, I love experiencing things. I love learning things. And there's just no substitute for first-hand, hands-on experience. And that's what I've had with these Valmets. I've been able to cycle through quite a few different flavors. The only ones I haven't owned, at least the major ones, I haven't had the M76 308 side folder. I've not had the 7883 just because it doesn't really interest me. And I haven't had the M82 bullpup because, again, it doesn't interest me. And I've never really seen a reason to get the M88 Hunter. Not that it's a bad gun, it's actually quite a nice gun. But I'm interested in more of the military models. And so with that, I've had the ones and shot them, and even if I can't keep them, at least when someone says something about them, I can talk from personal experience. Yeah, that's important to me. The same thing goes with like the Swiss PE90 series, all that. People talk about how great these guns are, how great Valmets are, calling them the Cadillac of guns. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I am sometimes thinking to myself, they're kind of overhyping. They're good guns, but you know, when you don't have first-hand experience with something, you can either think it's trash, or you can think it's the greatest thing ever, not seeing its shortcomings. And while the Valmets are very nice, they do have shortcomings. Maybe not as many as some others, but you know, they're mechanical, made by man, nothing's perfect. And it's nice to experience that, to know what they are and aren't good at. But yeah, be putting out a video on the main channel, kind of going more over the variations, the M62, the M71, the M76, and of course my new M78. But I wanted to drop this video on the personal channel first, where I could just chat with you more informally and tell some stories and ramble a wee bit. So, hope you don't mind. I do appreciate you tuning in. If you could, as always, like, share, and subscribe. And definitely go over and check out the Mishaco channel if for some reason you haven't. And with that, this is Misha, and I will catch you very soon next time.